Hey, welcome everybody. How y'all doing out there? It's Ukraine update with the Shills. We got operator Starsky on board, struggling through a little tooth issue, but as you might have just heard earlier, he's got it under control and we're good to go. You're gonna have to bear with me. I still got the eye issue, so it's full gangster 2.0 mode here. But never mind all that. We're gonna turn it right over to Starsky and get some updates for you.
Thank you so much, Dick. Hello, everyone. Operator Starsky here. As usual, we have a small update on Ukrainian situation, and we already received information that almost 7,000 orcs were eliminated in Ukraine in the last week, which makes it almost 1,000 Russians per day. And such huge losses explained basically with different factors. First of all, Ukraine now has a lot of artillery, a lot of new weaponry, and this amount of weaponry will only grow every day. And also the range and precision of our artillery is much better than in Russians. Another reason for that is that Ukrainians are gaining experience, and basically the army that began this war met Russian invaders 1 year ago is the same army that is fighting today. While the Russian army that spent 2021 in Belarus preparing for this invasion, basically professional army, was completely wiped out during this year. And what they have now is a lot of unexperienced people. So their losses will only grow, and also they lost quite a few artillery systems. They have deficit of shells and different ammunition. So we have a slight advantage in this regard. And guys, I will be smoking. Don't judge me for that, please. It's not like we're not official people. Also, we have a bunch of interesting updates from Ukraine. One of the good news is that in Kyiv and around Kyiv, we had 0 blackouts for almost 1 week, and I hope that it will remain this way. There is anticipation that we will have less and less blackouts and in other cities. In Odessa, for example, there was the situation was kind of bad because of the recent strike, and situation got improved due to our power engineers. Those people are completely heroic, and also, the U.S. advises for Ukraine to prepare for the counteroffensive, to prepare for the process of liberating our territories that were captured by Russian invaders. And basically, this is what we do. Some other updates, we know that on 24th, Russians are planning a bunch of air raids as well as missile strikes. So we know that there will be a huge escalation. So we are preparing for this. We know that Russians brought and concentrated around 400 aircraft near the border with Ukraine, including attack helicopters and bombers. And we also know that they are growing the number of their battalions on the occupied territory of Donbass. Previously, they had 160 battalions located in that area, and currently this number grew to 190 battalions. even though those battalions are not complete, still it's a lot of people, and we're talking about the number that is between 70 and 100,000 men. Again, we have a slight advantage in terms of artillery, and the experience of this war already showed that artillery basically decides. Yeah, it's HIMARS time, exactly. Artillery is one of the decisive factors in this war. So those are most of the updates from Ukraine. Also, we had a small missile strike yesterday. 4 missiles were launched this time. This time it's not 40, not 70, not 100, just 4 missiles that were launched from the territory of the Black Sea. In the night, there was another attempt to perform a missile strike on Ukraine, but again, this missile strike happened on the day when Russians lost 1,010 men on a battleground, and we're talking about irreversible losses. Again, 2 to 3 times as much as that they were lost as wounded. And yeah, 1,010 people were confirmed dead by General Staff of Ukraine.
That especially when they're going through conscription and all this other stuff, Starsky, having those kind of losses mount up and mount up. I mean, do you hear from your guys at all that they feel like they're fighting inexperienced, but just big numbers?
Yes. So I talked to my friend today who spent already 1 year fighting in the Foreign Legion for Ukraine, and basically he told me that it's like, I cannot understand. Either I'm becoming very good at fighting, or Russians start to suck at fighting more and more. And I think it's a mix. It's both, because yes, he of course he gained new experience, but the professional army that was used by Russians, it's no more, and Russians only bring unexperienced people. Some of them have some older mobics have maybe experience of Afghanistan. Other older mobics may have experience in Chechnya. But those wars were not winning wars for Russia. Maybe some of the personnel remembers Georgia. But again, it's not like a huge amount of men. And those are people who don't want to fight. Their professional soldiers were only motivated by the fact that they can steal a bunch of toilets and conditioners and send home to their wives. That was their only motivation for fighting in Ukraine. And Russian army.
I heard reports, Starsky, that there's actually secret agents right now looking all over for the blueprints on how to manufacture toilet paper to go with said toilets. So better watch out for them too.
And it's a big problem actually for Russia, because a couple of days ago, their headlines were screaming, because I have no idea why this topic was so popular. Maybe I'm missing something, but like there were 100 headlines in the news regarding the European sanctions that will prevent European toilets to be exported to Russia, and Russians were insulted. They were completely panicking. I'm not kidding. In my previous stream I showed like
I know. It's
screenshots. Yeah,
it's funny, but it also leads to the bigger issue. The sanctions are a huge thing coming down the pike from what we're reading in other things. I mean, those 100 were really like a dig at them. They should be worried, but the sanctions alone here in America and other countries that have got on board, they're looking at a really serious trouble with oil coming up, which is what has sustained them so far. They've been able to fight against the sanctions so far and hold their head up. But what's coming down the pike, it just looks like it's really going to cause a problem. Besides toilets, like it's going to be really serious.
No, but this is a very serious business for Russians, because Russians didn't really care, like, when McDonald's left Russia. They didn't really care, when Russians lost the ability to massively produce their cruise missiles. Russians live their life somewhere deep in, I don't know, Ussurisk or somewhere like that, and Moscow as well. And they don't care. They can still visit their malls. They can buy some, fake Coca-Cola or Iranian Coca-Cola, by the way. Iran re-exports Coca-Cola to Russia, because Coca-Cola is present in Iran. But
wow.
But at the same time, when their well-being is under threat, when they lose access to, I don't know, Hamon, things like that, it's a very, very demotivating factor for Russians. People, like in Russia, they're laughing at sanctions because they don't feel them. And the reason they don't feel sanctions is because we are, like, people of the world are not trying to starve Russians. Okay, we're trying to castrate their military industry, and that's what we do. That's the reason why they cannot produce a lot of things. They cannot produce better tanks. They struggle with repairing their old or damaged tanks and things like that, let alone the cruise missiles. But the very citizens of Russia, our intention is not to starve them to death,
right?
Because it makes no sense. Even if we tried, Russia is a big country and they can eat, I don't know, like roots.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the bigger picture of it, look how long it took. I mean, the sanctions have taken so long, and they're all on energy exports. They're not really on how they function inside the country at all. They're just on keeping the growth and the administration able to fund a lot of money in these extra efforts that they're putting out in the military. But what has happened successfully is that there's been a 19% drop in the ruble.
Yeah.
And that the budget deficit has actually widened, and the Kremlin now has to promote to garner finance for the war. So in other words, they need more support in-house for the war instead of just doing things unilaterally, like whatever they feel is the best thing to do. They're going to need more support amongst other Russians, and that could be the biggest problem. That could be the biggest problem that Russia faces right now.
Yeah.
Because look at all of the publicity that's leaking out of Russia itself in dissent, coming right out of Russia, which is what surprises me. Russian sources with dissent against the war, which we never, in the history that I've been around watching this stuff, that just doesn't happen. It just, nothing leaks out of there that way. Nobody complains about what goes on in Russia. If you complain, you're out, like, period. Like, that's it. It's their way or the highway. And I'm just seeing cracks everywhere, which is leading to all the talk about the weakening of it and how they're standing. I mean, they've been fighting it off with the sanctions, but they got more coming. Western countries are now not afraid of the collapse of the European markets with the fall. Since this 19% in ruble drop and nothing catastrophic happened, they're not as afraid to put the sanctions forward as much, and things are coming stronger.
Guys, of course, nobody was afraid of that. Reason number one, Russian GDP is around 1.4 or 1.7. I believe it's $1.4 trillion a year. GDP of Europe combined is 20 times of that.
Yeah.
Imagine which country, like, I think it's clear which country is going to win this war, considering the fact that whole world is prepared to help Ukraine, And which countries will help Russia? Which countries can Russia rely on? I'm not even saying that they cannot rely on countries like China, for example, because China doesn't need that crap. They already consider not to help Russia with weapons and things. So Iran and North Korea, basically terrorist countries, recognized worldwide as terrorist countries, they're their only allies. And they still want to say some bullshit about, I don't know, like Ukrainian Nazi or evil West, you know.
It's a sad look, man. Oh, we got somebody coming in here. Hey, Nick Suter. All right, Claire, you have a nemesis.
I knew if I mentioned sanction and Russia leaks that Nick, we would just hear it and just Nick, he'd get here like wildfire. And I'm so glad you're here, Nick. Actually.
Welcome, brother Nick. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Am I? Let's see.
You're good.
Yep. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see the thing light up, so I couldn't tell. No, I actually had another stream at 2, and as soon as it was over, I came. So apologies for being late. But and then we were still streaming, but then I heard that thing from Claire, and I was just like, gentlemen, I'm enjoying the stream, but somebody on the internet needs to be corrected.
Okay, 1 second. Nick, I give you 2 minutes to gather your thoughts. I got 2 shout outs to do, and the floor is yours. 1 second here. So we got Garth McKeel. I hope I fixed that, and you could do a phonetics for me so I get it right next time. Big shout out here, $5 thrown into the hat on the super chat. Greetings from near Vancouver, Gorod. Gorod. Fuck, man, I'm in British Columbia most of my life, and I don't even understand that. I'm sorry. British Columbia Oblast. Hey?
Gorod is a city in Russian.
Oh, so yeah, I think I need to be educated on the super chat a little bit, but I really like it. Thanks. Here, I want to hit the dragon again for that one. Here, come on in, Fluffy. Give him a shout out. There we go. And I have a second one here, but we got to let Fluffy do his thing first. He gets irate otherwise. But yeah, see, everybody can see what I was trying to read out there. There you go. And then we got one in from Tyler Dowdy, $10 into the super chat fund. Big shout. Thanks, Tyler. Has anyone tried using netting to protect critical infrastructure against kamikaze drones?
It reminds me of one very funny story that happened to my dad in school. He told me about it. So he had this history lesson, and their teacher was was talking about like giant nets that were constructed around, I think, Moscow back in the times of the World War II. And she said there were like huge nets like constructed around the city, and they would deflect bombs falling on the city. And my dad was like, what the heck? Like, are you serious? So after the lesson, he picked her book that she was reading, and it was said that something like a big web of defense was built around Moscow. Like basically like network.
Really?
Yeah. So let's say it's impossible.
It's the blast radius, explosion and whatnot. They'd have to be a great distance. Hey, 420 watching, light them if you got them, fellow babies. Caught that. But I heard somebody talking, Starsky, once about unidirectional EMP that could be kind of used like a gun, and you would just point and aim and boom, and that thing drops. You just got to hope it drops far enough away into a nothing zone, so if it gets set off anywhere or anyway, you're not, screwing people over. Is that just like sci-fi, or is that something that could actually be?
Yes, it's being used, and basically this stuff messes up its connection with GLONASS, and the drone gets confused. But as for nets, Iranian kamikaze drones carries around 40 kilograms of explosives, and it's not a cumulative weapon. It's not burning through. It just provides a huge blast. 1 kilogram of explosives is, wait a second, 100 grams of explosives can, let's talk in very primitive terms, but 100 grams of explosives can make a 1 meter wide hole in the asphalt. 1 kilogram of explosives can destroy everything in the radius of around 10 meters around it.
Wow.
10 kilograms can do even more damage, and we're talking about 30-40 kilograms of explosives. So it's a big stuff. 40 kilograms is it's a much bigger amount of explosives than in general artillery shells. That's why it's easier to shoot them down on approach, but no net will save against such big blast. People
That's
must
right.
understand that kamikaze drones are so dangerous because they carry so much explosives.
Yeah, and with modern drone technology and stuff, carrying a couple of kilos or whatever is just not a problem. Right. So, you can, those bastard things, absolutely. I've got a shout out here. I got a shout out here I can do from level 70, $14 into the hat. Big thanks there, level 70. Hi, Starsky. Is Ukraine prepared for a possible massive Russian attack using their aircraft?
We are prepared as much as we can be prepared. Of course, we made sure that all of our anti-air systems are functioning, that we have mobile anti-air groups. Of course, it depends on what kind of aviation they will use. Will it be like attack aircraft, low-flying ones like Su-25 or Su-24, or like strategic bombers that can drop stuff from very, very high altitude. But yeah, we will take this fight, of course.
I would like to add into that. The numbers that I get, and as a Canadian, I've got some pretty decently trusted news sources. The numbers I'm getting for Ukraine's ability to defend against missile attacks and whatnot would lead me to think and probably assume that your ability to also, defend yourself against aircraft is going to be, at least good.
Yeah, they cannot launch 400 aircraft at the same time. It's impossible. Yes, they will be launching, and again, according to their doctrine, they will be launching like pairs of their airplanes each time. Maybe, I don't know, 20 attack aircraft, maybe 20 tactical bombers at the same time. So it's not like, the sky will be swarmed with Russian aviation. It doesn't work this way.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
their so the Su-57 is their fifth gen fighters, and they haven't been using those in Ukraine. And there's some speculation that that's because they're afraid they're going to get shot down, and they're awfully expensive, so they're using everything else. Is that? I mean, is there any truth to that? Is that sort of your understanding?
Yes, of course, because again, they lost a lot of experienced pilots in this war. They lost a lot of people that had experience in Syria, but again, experience in Syria was limited to basically bombing civilian houses in Aleppo, for example. Doesn't require a lot of skills, but still, those those pilots had a lot of flight time, right? They had experience in basically operating those airplanes, and we know that in spring summer 2022 they were recruiting cadets that didn't even finish education in their military universities, and they didn't have enough of hours. So those will be flying those aircraft, and we already saw a lot of them, like going full kamikaze on the Russian territory from time to time, and they don't have a lot of experience. So they will be mainly operating those bombers and Su-27s as well.
I'm surprised that they didn't bother really finishing the training. You need to know to fly one of those things. You have to know how many times to wind up those rubber bands. Otherwise, you could just run out of. You never know what's going to happen. I'm surprised, but okay.
Ouch! Ouch!
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. At the same time, one interesting fact is that recently at a hostel I was showing those wrecks of Russian helicopters, those Ka-52 alligators to journalists, and a lot of journalists were asking, like, could those pilots eject before the crash? And I noticed that actually no, all the Ka-52 that we have downed on 24th of February, nobody ejected at all, even though they have this ejection system in Ka-52 alligators. The propeller gets shot out, and the two propellers are being ejected in the first place, and then the pilots eject. Nothing like that happened. They simply crashed, and that's all. End of story.
So the ejection systems don't work, I think is the take. They're telling the pilots, like, oh, don't worry, you can eject if there's and they don't work. Is that the suggestion here, do you think? Or
yeah, I guess the reason was like mice, maybe.
I've suggested before that Russian helicopters should have upward shooting ejection seats just to make the job easier, because it would instantly turn them into sunflower fertilizer. Just done, but I got a couple of shout outs to do here. Jean-Marc Paganel donated $5 into the super chat fund. Big thanks there.
And I think Claire had, before we move on, just because I think Claire and I didn't want to move on too much if Claire had something.
No, super chats first. I can wait.
My bad.
I appreciate that, Nick. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, and so he comes in with Ontario on last Canada. Starsky, did you see Russian reporter getting run over by Russian robot by accident?
No, I didn't see that. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, I got to check this out too. And then Lisa donated a $20 super sticker, and I'll describe it out, because if I hit the little button here, watch, all I get is 3/4 of fuck all and a handshake. Like, all it does is say, it doesn't show the sticker. I don't understand. But it was a cool baby lemon jumping in our lemon character's arms to give a hug. And it was during an appropriate moment for the sticker there. And I can get one more in now as well, where Ink Boy comes in with $5, euros. Actually, yeah, that's euros, right? Question at everyone. What army is better? One, Russian, Human wave, untrained. I'll put orcs in. Or 2. Now this is for everybody. So you put a 1 or a 2 in the chat, right? Or 2. Belarusian underfunded equipment lost to Russian army. So, or you could put 3, all of the above. Great one, Ink Boy. I think that would be appropriate as well. There's the big shout out coming in finally.
I'm very proud, actually, of the Russian army. I think they've done a marvelous job with a lot of work. They've managed to, barely, but they've managed to become the second best army in all of Ukraine. They've gone from what was assumed to be the second best army on the planet to barely the second best army. Probably not even this, because Wagner's in Ukraine too, so they're probably still actually at third. But you know,
yeah. If anybody else steps up in the region, they're going to be left with a participation pin only. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, if like a bunch of 10-year-olds sort of form a little troop and get some plastic swords together, the Russian army is going to have some competition. But for now, I think they're okay.
Yeah.
Second place.
I think I think the scariest army is Belarusian army, because have you seen their Spetsnaz? I mean, those mofos can destroy bottles with their heads, break like bricks with their fingers. They do those human pyramids. Have you ever seen soldiers doing those crazy human pyramids? I mean, it's so insane. And
I think the last time I saw it was those freaky Germans in their nudist shit. That was way back when, not new Germans, but you know, those fucks back then, you know.
So yeah. And I thought you were talking about some specific German videos. Yeah, but still, fuck it. It's so aches to smile. But still, and I know cases when Belarusian paratroopers were breaking plastic bottles with their heads. Try that.
Wow.
Wow.
I have a question I wanted to ask, and I wanted to ask you this yesterday, and you're the only guest who like calls me up. First of all, very apologetic. Like, I'm getting shot at with rockets, Nick. I can't come to the show. I'm sorry. It's like, dude, why don't you stay safe, okay? No, really, I'm sorry. I was like, no, just find shelter. We'll talk later. But you're the only guest that gets, ooh, the rocket's coming. I can't come on. Okay, fine. There was a question I'd wanted to ask you, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Speaking seriously for a minute, I want to say it was a week ago today, but it was an interesting thing that happened. It started with Brazil for reasons we have yet to determine. Brazil sent a warning to all its citizens in Russia and in Belarus, saying that they needed to leave and leave now. And okay, that was Brazil. Fine. Less than an hour later, Canada issued the same warning and said, if you're in Belarus, if you have to get out by foot, get out, but get out. And now these kinds of warnings are actually very uncommon. It's reasonably common for them to say, we don't advise you going, but to tell their citizens to get out. Then France did it, then the US did it, all within an hour of each other. This suggests to myself, Macmillan, a few others, that there's actionable intelligence somewhere that something is about to happen. So we've been trying to sort of figure out what it might be. The closest that we've been able to come on is maybe Belarus is going to genuinely enter the war. They have declared war.
Do they have anything left? I mean,
they don't.
Yeah.
It's the best theory we have of a bunch of theories that don't make a lot of sense.
A bunch of
we've been trying to figure it out.
Coming in with bayonets, like what? Like, you know what?
And even if they go in, why then tell Americans to leave leave Russia? The only thing we could think of is maybe somebody thought NATO was going to enter for some reason and didn't want hostages. But if that's true, then you'd expect countries like Germany to do the same thing, and they're not. So we have no idea. It looks like something's about to happen. We don't know. So I wanted to ask Starsky while we had him if A, he had heard of any of this, and B, if he had any ideas. Does it seem like Belarus is going to enter seriously? And if not, any thoughts as to why a number of countries, and again, Brazil doesn't make a lot of sense. They haven't been involved directly, but they were serious. And again, all of these were within an hour of each other, which tells us that actionable intelligence came out. It was, let's assume, to the U.S. The U.S. shared it with a number of other countries that were quite emphatic about leaving. So I don't. It feels like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Any thoughts?
I have two theories. One is that people with double citizenship, they might get drafted. They might get recruited or mobilized. I mean, and another, I heard that from like two sources. And another thing is probably a growing number of hate crimes, because speaking your language on the streets in Russia, if you if you're not a Russian person, is kind of sketchy a bit.
Well, I would imagine. All right. All right, cool. Well, thank you. That was what I wanted to ask you, so thank you.
Cool. I've got a couple of shout outs to do, and then Claire's going to come in with some questions here. So Eric Heiss put $10 into the super chat fund. There wasn't a message, so tag me personally, Dick Dawson, in the chat, and I'll throw a message up for you coming around, because sometimes it's a goof up. It happens now and then. I've seen it before, but big thanks. Awesome. And then we had Martin Lefebvre coming in with $5 into the super chat fund. Big thanks, Martin. Thank you. Mr. Dawson, I would strongly suggest we listen to Skvernia. It looks like it's basically Black Angler today. Starsky can help us know what the song is about. And then he put in 1,000 plus orcs dead in a day with huge exclamation points. Oh, yeah, I'll agree with that. Huge. Good shout out. But Starsky, do you know the song he's referring to?
I've heard about it. I didn't listen to it, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
I'll check in the background here as we're going and see if we can, make sure there's no like copyright issues and stuff, and maybe we can play it before we end. I'll check it out here. Good shout, Martin. Thanks, man. Yeah,
well,
and we'll go to.
I'd like to point out as to the offensive that Russia started about 2 weeks ago. There's some credible reports that there are 40,000 dead, so that would be almost 5,000 Russians dead a day. As a result of that counteroffensive. It's hard to know exactly what the numbers are, but there are credible reports. BBC, Reuters are coming out with, they're quoting those numbers. These are quotes, but it seems reasonable. I mean, if so, Russia has lost more in 1 week than in the first 3 months of the war.
Yeah, currently we see that they're losing incredible amount of people every day. And again, there were a lot of pessimists saying that Bakhmut will fall and stuff like that, and no, it didn't happen. Situation is bad because Russians try to attack every day multiple times, 10 to 15 times a day, and the situation is that all those attacks are being deflected successfully. So we're the Bakhmut fortress is still there.
Oh, on that serious, I did just one point on what Nick said. I did just recently read an article in regards to the coming out of Ukraine. One of the representatives there saying that some of those numbers could be skewed and are actually higher because unfortunately the Russians don't even remove their wounded. And they also then become part of the statistics from dying of their wounds there. Not even the casualty of war right away, but the Ukrainian army is actually taking them in as prisoners and taking care of them. But then, the statistics show that the numbers are even greater.
Well, and to give you an idea of just how bad that is, when this war started, they had mobile crematoriums that they were bringing with them to every major mobile crematoriums. The idea being, A, you dispose of the bodies, you don't have to bring them back, and B, then nobody knows how many people have died. So imagine going into a battle and that thing's right behind you, and you know what its purpose is.
But not to evacuate your wounded, like when you are. That speaks really loudly to me as to why I feel a certain way about Russia. Well, are you ready for some questions there, Starsky? They're going to circle around to a different topic. Back to drones, there were several questions. One from Littlekins, who's been a member for a while here on the Shills. They would like to know if the drone killer could be useful against guided missiles in any way.
No, I don't think so. Those are too fast.
Yeah.
The missiles that accelerate right before striking their target, they have a speed of like Mach 3. So those drones will not be useful against them. They're useful against slow-moving drones, kamikaze drones. Those Shahed drones, they have a speed of like 170 kilometers per hour, something like that. It's a very low speed because they only have a smaller Rotax engine. Comparing to the size of the drone, this engine is small, okay, and not so powerful. So they are kind of slow. Let's say they are not overly slow like turtles. No. 170 kilometers is pretty nice speed, but at the same time, the intercepting drones, they can destroy them. Missiles, no, it's a different story. Not all missiles can be even shot down using manpads because they accelerate. So when a cruise missile approaches the target, while cruising, basically, its speed is less than smaller than the speed of sound, and it can be intercepted. Like with the manpad, there are known cases that some of those cruise missiles were shot down using like machine guns. Rare cases, of course, because it's almost impossible. But yeah, I heard about such cases. At the same time, when they accelerate, they go Mach 2, Mach 3. So you cannot even see them on the radar at this point.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Another question in regards to drones from Shelley Winters. Do you know where the drones are being built currently?
We know that they are being built in Iran, but we also know that Iranian Boeing 747 is flying to Russia and back on a daily basis, like multiple times. So it's either it carries drones or weaponry to Russians, or it delivers equipment that will be used to build a factory in Russia. On the other hand, I think that Iran has more opportunity to build those drones because it has less sanctions than Russia.
Okay. And one more here from Ugly German Truth. Is there something true with the rumors that Russia has sent draft notices to every kid in occupied territories that turns 18 this year?
I don't know about that, but I know that on the occupied territory, it's very hard to find an adult man right now.
Wow.
And I want to jump in on that one because that one personally for me, I think it's worth pointing out what is really going on here, and that is genocide. And aside from the genocide of the Ukrainian people, he is targeting for drafting. He is targeting any of the occupied regions, and that's a war crime. And he's doing it anyway, and that's fine. We know he does war crimes. There's no real shock there. But he's also targeting remote regions of Russia for drafting. Turns out if you're really rich in Russia, you're not getting drafted, and your kids aren't getting drafted. And if you're third generation Russian, you're not getting drafted. If you're second or first generation Russian, chances of getting drafted are very high. And the reason isn't just because he needs soldiers. The reason is if you go there and you die, it solves two of his problems. He's helped ethnically cleanse Russia, and he's thrown more people into his meat grinder. So Level 70 asked, how many people can he keep sending over there? a lot more than unfortunately Ukraine has. And when he gets any part of Ukraine, he starts sending them in against it. It's absolutely horrific, and it's one of the worst things in my view of this war is it's genocide. There's no other word for it. It's genocide. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, Russians lost more than 130,000 men dead here, and their population is roughly 140 million. So roughly 1 man in 1,000 men in Russia is either dead. 1 man dead, basically, in 1,000 Russians. 1 man dead. 3 are wounded very bad. This number is not that big because we don't meet 1,000 people every day, but I think some time should pass, and this number will increase. And I'm talking about social relations, because people in Russia are losing their relatives, brothers, dads, sons, and currently, of course, they can claim anything. They can claim whatever, I don't care, I have 4 sons, and I can bring them all to war, and I don't care, I will give birth to more people. But after a while, they will realize that their family lost income because father is no more, ceased to be, and he doesn't bring money anymore, and all the problems that will appear as a result of that, I think they will make a lot of Russian citizens concerned about it. So some time must pass, and they will realize that it's not that easy.
Yes. Very much here. I've got a couple of super chats and shout outs I can do here. So first off, Martin Lefebvre there wanted to throw a tiny clarification into his super chat there on that song. If I can add, Skverna's song to me perfectly captures the current tension that we can all feel for the coming offensive. So, okay. And I have checked it out in the background. I think there's a decent chance we can get away with it. We'll play it right at the end, because if I do have to mute the song after due to monetization issues and stuff, well, it won't affect anything. It won't. So who cares? So yeah, I think we can get away with it. But and then let me run over here into my other sack of tricks. And Amy Sanders donated into the super chat, pal. Thank you very much, Amy. Is Prigozhin? Is that it?
Prigozhin.
Yeah, okay. Prigozhin. With the whole sunglasses thing, because of the eye thing, the screens, I already kind of need glasses. So this whole, I've got to rearrange the way I do things, because I'm looking to the side. That screen's a bit smaller. It's a freaking nightmare. So here we go. Is Prigozhin going to get flying lessons soon?
Yeah, I guess so. The reason why Prigozhin is so active in the social media right now is because he knows too much. That's why he is trying to be as public as possible. He lost, he lost this war against Gerasimov. Gerasimov is now Putin's favorite pet, and the reason for that is Gerasimov can be controlled, because he's old school Soviet general, and Putin likes this kind of people because they can be controlled, and they are completely obedient, right? Prigozhin, on the other hand, he's he's not a military man. He doesn't have this kind of discipline, and he's hardly controllable. That's why I think he's in trouble. Basically, he knows too much,
right?
And yeah, he's got He has to avoid windows.
Eric Heist that had thrown $10 into the super chat pile. There wasn't a message. We did get that clarified. Question to Starsky. Does the UKA teach its soldiers the 7 Ps prior to planning? Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And then he says Semper Fi.
Yes, I can tell you this. In my brigade, we've been taught MDMP the way it's being taught in the NATO armies since 2016. In 2016, our officers already passed this like education, okay, and also we had different people. We had Canadian army men that came to our brigade, and we were studying all that military decision-making process, like NATO army does.
Right.
Troops leading process we studied as well, and basically our staff structure is the same as in the NATO armies, because in the post-Soviet space, as well as in Russia, you only had this.
You almost there, love.
We had this vertical, like chain of command, basically. This vertical authority of one commander that would decide every freaking thing, you know, and that's why he was so overloaded. While currently we have different structures: S1, S2, S3, those sections of the headquarters, and they help commander to make a decision based on their analysis and their expertise, which is much more effective. And we use that since 2016, guys. I'm not sure.
It's already very entrenched in everybody already then.
Yeah, I will not talk on behalf of other units, but my specific unit, my brigade, 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, the Frontier, kick-ass name, by the way. Yeah, we do that since 2016, and we participated in different multinational military exercise with NATO countries and operating as part of multinational team. Together with like Polish army man, for example, together with the US army and other allies. So we have a huge experience in that. In 2017, basically, we were deployed on the Svetlodarsk Bulge, and we completely confirmed that this experience works. And of course, we developed a lot of new stuff that works for us, because in Ukraine, we still have, we already don't have it, but back in 2017, we still had like older doctrine. So, for example, our unit has this new structure based on NATO experience, but at the same time, we have old doctrine that we have to obey, because when some crime happens in the unit, for example, or some kind of investigation, the investigator will not be respecting like our NATO structure. He will respect the law, right? And the law is the doctrine, the active doctrine. That's why we even implemented like hybrid structure. So all of our battalion headquarters had structure like NATO battalions, and our brigade had hybrid structure that was addressing the doctrine, and it could also work with our battalions efficiently. So we had things like that, and it was like 5 years ago. So we were pretty much advanced in this regard back then.
Okay, cool. We've got one here from level 70, $14 into the super chat fund. Big shout. Thank you, level 70. How long can Russians stay on the offensive with losses of over 1,000 a day?
I can tell you the answer. It's very simple. So they have up to 500,000 people, and I think in a year and a half they will run out of men. Basically, 1,000 men a day. I think you can divide 500 by 1,000.
Yeah, that's one of those things where basic math can instantly tell you that this is not sustainable, right? There's no way. We got Elvin Archer in £5 through Super Chat. Big shout there, Elvin. Thank you very much. Starsky, would drones / balloons with radar reflectors be good to screw up Orc and Radar and West Orc Sams and whatnot? Clove oil is great for tooth pain. Hug to you and Futch.
Thank you so much. The night I was suffering from the toothache, I learned all kinds of recipes on how to, remove the pain, including chewing garlic and, using like salty water and things like that. I can tell you definitely that salty water in a broken tooth could instantly kill me. Let alone garlic, because the nerves were aching from the contact with air. They were aching just because they were there. As for the balloons, I think that they can still use interceptors like the U.S. Air Force did to intercept those balloons. It will be kind of, it will make them nervous for a while, but nothing special. If those balloons were, I don't know, carrying something, maybe like infected birds, a flock of aggressive pigeons. Attacking aircraft.
The birds that have those lovely beaks that don't have to deal with the teeth issues, right, Starsky?
Oh my god! Yeah. I'm so glad that I removed that crap, because like I had 1 week of my life completely removed from my life. Because of that.
Evolution's got to catch up, man. Like seriously, what are wisdom teeth even for nowadays, other than to just be a pain in the ass? Come on.
Yeah. Beaks are great. I'm for beaks.
There you go. I wouldn't mind either. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, you ready for another question from the chat, Starsky? Elizabeth Rylom wants to know if there's any truth about the rumor that Wagner Group is looking to draft from the U.S.
I heard about it, and I saw that hilarious video that they did. Currently, they claim that 10 million Americans. No idea why they came up with this number, though. 10 million Americans want to enlist to glorious Wagner Group and basically send it into a meat grinder. My advice sounds like this: because Russians are professionals at creating tons of BS, and that's the only thing they can produce well. You gotta just ignore that. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. One more here from Madeline Suzette. Starsky, why can't Ukraine acquire F-16S's Griffin's egg and take off from Poland, Romania, Turkey, etc., instead of inside of Ukraine?
Why can't Ukraine?
I think the question is why not have Ukrainians go to Poland and fly out of Poland and attack
Romania
and attack using F-16s from these countries?
Obviously, because it will be considered as escalation. Because other countries let Ukraine use their territories to strike Russian troops. So that is direct escalation. On the other hand, like diplomatically, it's bad. Practically, it's good because practically Russia will never ever attack European countries. There are two reasons for that. First reason is that Russians don't want to kill their kids who live in some prestigious parts of like London.
You mean real countries? Yeah.
Yeah. And another reason is that of course they understand that they cannot win over Ukraine. They cannot defeat Ukrainian army, let alone huge NATO army that is concentrated on its western borders.
Yeah, they're already
yeah.
freaking out because some of their close neighbors want to join NATO now, and they're like, "Oh, that's bad," and whatnot. Well, why do you think, asshole? Like, come on, right? A coordinated actual UN situation is something that Russia can nowhere near get through right now. They would just instantly be fucked and under control, right? No way. And then there's the whole nuke argument that comes from that. But yeah, here, I got a shout out I can do right as Fluffy's on the screen, no less. NA comes in with the mandatory $6.66. And he says, "Hey, Dawson, it's not so much evolution. Our jaws are now smaller because we aren't hunter-gatherers anymore." Yeah, you're probably not wrong there. But at the same time, as the jaw shrinks, evolution should go, hey, you know what? Get rid of that tooth too. I'm just saying, I'm not preaching for intelligent design here. Don't get me wrong. No way.
Leave the teeth in place. Get rid of freaking nerves in those teeth.
Yeah.
They're useless.
Yeah, they don't seem to serve a purpose, and we have them anyway. And they can be some of the biggest nerves in the body, and they're close to the brain, so they cause yeah.
Oh, the pain is insurmountable when you have a real tooth issue. Oh dear Lord!
It occurs to me, Starsky, that you have received more direct pain from your dentist than you have from Russian soldiers, making me wonder if perhaps they should just start conscripting dentists and throwing them all into the front lines. It certainly couldn't be worse than what they're doing now.
It was a hilarious dentist because I was lying down there like in that bed, and he saw my patch. He was like, "Are you from Hosomo?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, were you those badasses who killed plenty of Russian bastards on the first day?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh, it's so cool." And he told me that his two brothers actually served. I can say one thing for sure. Ukrainians before
Starsky, you phased out on us for a second there. You just kind of locked up. We missed about 20 seconds.
Oh, really? How about now?
Yeah, so you asked if you were from Homo and killing those Russian bastards, and you said yeah, and that's the last we heard.
Yeah, I said yeah, and he was so happy because his two brothers, he's actually from Bucha himself, and he was there under occupation for a couple of days, and he was lucky to get out. And his two brothers serve in Ukrainian artillery units right now, and in Ukraine we are all connected. So if previously Ukrainians were like, I would say like in any other country, some people care, some people don't care. Currently, we all care about each other because we have like a lot of things in common right now as a society.
Oh, okay. Level 70, tossing $14 into the chat, super chat fun there. Big thanks there, level 70. I heard that China is considering sending lethal aid to Russia. What do you think the West's response will be if they actually do so? Good question, 70.
I think China will get sanctioned instantly. And this means that China loses huge Western market.
It would be with their housing and all that ridiculous inflation of empty towers and stuff going on and whatnot. This would just be almost self-destructive for their economy.
Of course, they spent years in order to conquer Western market, and currently, guys, imagine what percent of people on the West use Chinese phones, for example, like Xiaomi. Everybody, like
Exactly.
50% of Ukrainians use things like Xiaomi. So they will lose that instantly, and that will be a huge loss. They don't have such a big market in Russia, and even though they sell a lot of stuff to Russia, but still, Russian GDP is $1.3 trillion a year, and the GDP of combined Europe and the US is 40 times of that. So you can imagine.
So which market do you want to play in, right? Come on. You know.
Yeah.
I do believe that Russia might have expected more support from people who sort of oppose the West, as it's, you know, colloquially known or whatever. But the base facts of the modern world, global economy, and so on dictate that people have more to consider just than, you know, we kind of think alike and we dominate our people too with an iron fist. Oh, but you want us to do that? Not so sure we can afford it. I mean, it's real, you know?
Well, and so you can't overlook Russia's failures here and how that plays with it. I'm sure China, if Russia had managed to meet the original expectations and take Ukraine in 4 days, China would be much more willing to help, because Russia is a superpower, or very close to a superpower, capable of, you know, conquering countries. Russia doesn't appear to be capable of conquering much more than an anthill right now, and you know, China's got to hedge their bets because they don't want to back a country that can't function. And given the inability of their military to accomplish any of its primary objectives, given the sanctions and that their economy is heading south, you know, China can see which way the wind is going. So this doesn't mean that they won't send support, and I am concerned about that. And how and what the consequences will be.
As much as I kind of joke around, that was a bit facetious, because there is a general concern that there could be somewhat level of support that would be deemed acceptable by them, so that they could battle it out in the political realm without actually getting anyone involved.
Well, and I think China's trying to help without getting caught. And
good point.
You know, my hope is that the U.S. resolve in that matter remains very strong. China holds a lot of U.S. debt. China is still a favored nation, trading nation, I believe, with the U.S. And the U.S. economy is a big issue for the president and any number of other people who are going to be running for re-election reasonably soon. So my hope is that their resolve on this issue, which I think will end up working for them politically anyway, you know, but it takes dedication and strength. And so my hope is that they maintain it. And my hope is that China doesn't really try it, but who knows?
I'll put one last thought into this before we turn over to Claire here. I do hope that the expensive things may be going up because of China manufacturing and so on and whatnot, maybe being lost and pushed to other places, doesn't become a driving force. I mean, everybody's stuffing inflation down our throats every chance they get right now. I'm sure it won't be a problem. But we'll turn it over to Claire here.
Okay. Well, we have a few questions, but first, one from me actually on what Nick was just talking about in regards to China and actually backing away because of perception and wanting to be aligned with only a strong force. With Russia's attitude about being the strongest all along and being like that, do you think that is actually contributing to a lot of the cracks that we're seeing in the media, even coming out of Russia here? Support everywhere kind of waning a little bit because they are looking very challenged, and besides all the propaganda, looking a bit weak. It looks like a more unified front against them, actually. Even the neutral countries squawking if they come anywhere near them.
Well, yeah, please. I'm sorry.
No, please go on.
China and Russia also have borders that they contest with each other and that they disagree as to who owns them. And right now, Russia has them. China wants them back. And so China will play ally, but they're not allies and they're not really friends. They'll work together on individual things.
Frenemies.
Do you mean this would be opportunistic to them? They could actually come out ahead in this, the weaker that Russia is perceived?
Well, China has so many problems right now. COVID is raging through. None of them have any natural immunity to COVID, and they don't have a very good vaccine against any of the modern COVID variants. Their economy is tanked because of Dick mentioned part of it earlier. They had overinvested in real estate, but that notwithstanding, they haven't produced anything in 2 years because of lockdowns, the likes of which nobody has ever seen on the face of the earth. They were largely successful, but killed the economy. So now they're trying to. Yeah. So now they're trying to, you can't just bring up your manufacturing again overnight. I think they had hoped that Russia would be able to be a big enough power to help them. And that is turning out not to be true. So I think it's very hard to tell what they're going to do next. And what they say they're going to do next has no bearing on what they will actually do next. So this nobody knows.
And one thing that makes me happy personally is that currently people around the world realized that, first of all, you cannot become a hostage of somebody's like energy resources. You know, you cannot be become a hostage of a situation, right? Because the experience of Germany, for example, it was a prominent experience. And they also realized that if dictatorships, because China is ruled by a totalitarian regime, Russia is ruled by a dictator and a bunch of oligarchs. You know, Ukraine is a corrupted country, but we elected democratically our two presidents. If you keep like trying to calm those regimes, those terrorist regimes, basically inhumane regimes, with like trade and relationships and partnerships, doesn't work like that, because countries that don't support and don't recognize human rights, freedom of speech, democratic values, and things like that, you cannot just have efficient partnership with them, because like it doesn't work this way. Something doesn't work for you or for them anyways. So in case they are caught red-handed, you know, supplying Russia with like MREs or supplying them with weapons, of course, they will get sanctioned very, very hard by European countries, by the US, and different countries of the world, Asia as well.
Cool. Okay. I got a couple of super chat shout outs to do here. And Amy Sanders came in with $5. Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. Is someone collecting materials for a museum when the war is over? Legends must be remembered respectfully.
Yeah, we have a huge museum. So there was a museum in Kiev, actually he is, and it was dedicated to the World War II. Again, in Russia, there is no World War II. There's a big patriotic war They don't
This
recognize
shocked me
World War
when you explained this, Starsky. I had no idea. This fucked me up.
Yeah, in Russia, Russia recognizes that the war started on in 1941. That's finished in 1945, and we have this huge museum dedicated to the Second World War, and we had portion of this museum dedicated to the war in Afghanistan, because a lot of Ukrainians back in the Soviet times, a lot of Ukrainians who served in the Soviet army, they were sent to Afghanistan, and that's why we have a lot of veterans from that war. And at some point, this museum was relocated, and currently we have all that facility dedicated to this war in Ukraine. Against Ukraine, pardon, and there's a lot of stuff. There's like a map of Kiev that was taken from a Russian sabotage group that was operating in Kiev, and what I saw, basically, this map was it was like folded, and the only thing I could see was part of my district in Kiev, where they marked different locations like hospitals, police stations, and things like that. Some important strategic objects and different stuff. Of course, a lot of things were delivered to different museums from Hostomel. In Kiev downtown, there's on Mikhailivska Square, there's a huge exhibition with Russian BMDs and tanks and things like that. And 90% of that stuff was brought from Hostomel. Actually, I even recognize where those tanks and BMDs were located there.
Really?
Yeah. So I think that there will be a lot of such museums, a lot of things will be still found years from now, like landmines and shells, and I don't know. There's a lot of armor that drowned in Kiev region as well, because a lot of them drowned in not far from Mashun in the river, in Irpin River, and they were not excavated. They were not towed out yet. So yeah, this we will have that. I think that tourists that will arrive to Ukraine after our victory, they will have something to see.
All right. Amy Sanders came in again with a second $5 super chat. So big thanks again there, Amy. Thank you very much. As a veteran, I hope there will be support systems set up for them, and frankly, for all of the people traumatized by this war. And I'll put the word invasion after war there. But yeah. That's a great shout, Amy. I really do too. And I hope not just that, but everybody around the globe who's supporting the war effort now, we've got a secondary job to do, which is going to be just as important. And it's going to be to support the recovery of said war. Correct, Starsky?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked today with my friend regarding this, and he told me about his friends and his neighbors in the hospital that lost their limbs and things like that. And we came to a conclusion that in the future, we will actually have a lot of opportunities to employ those people, because on the first place, they will have jobs, which is great. And second is that they will be dedicated employees, I think. So those guys will definitely get employed, and they will not be left abandoned.
Yeah. Good shout. And then I got one from Ink Boy here, who threw €5 into the chat, super chat fund. Big shout there, Ink Boy. Thank you very much. Seeing that Ukraine is patriotically fighting an invader at a grand scale, shouldn't this war be renamed a grand patriotic war? Good show.
I don't know. I think that it should be probably renamed as. It may sound horrible, but it's like World War III. Why? Because world supports Ukraine in this war versus Russian invaders that basically hate rest of the world. I'm trying to come up with some symbol that would show worldwide support and unity with Ukraine, and I have zero ideas because I thought about like using flags of the countries, but we will have to use like all the flags in the world.
You'd be dressed in flags, right?
Yeah. So we gotta create some kind of symbol that would show this unity, and I still have no idea.
I think we should do up an image of the globe where the continents are dressed in the yellow and blue of Ukraine, and then the water section would be in something that contrasts nicely, so you really get the feel. I think that could work.
I have an idea, like a better idea, like Ukrainian flag, okay, or maybe a world in Ukrainian colors and hands holding this world, like protecting it.
Yes, that's a great idea. Okay, everybody who's an artist out there in the chat, you heard that shit, right? Get into our Discord server and send us some submissions in, and we'll get them over. Starsky will do a stream on his where he promotes it a bit, and we'd get a little bit of voting going on, and we're gonna pick one. What do you think, Starsky? Let's do this.
Yeah, sounds great. Absolutely.
Fantastic idea.
All right. And then we had a member shout out from Crazy Cat 1. Big member shout out. I love member shout outs. Fuck Russia. Yeah. I love it.
Are you ready for another question, Starsky?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this one is interesting because it actually hit my Business Insider. And when you get the question, you'll know why I think that's kind of odd that Business Insider brought this to my attention today. But from Hold My Beer, a member for a month, says, Starsky, have you heard Vladimir Solovyov, the TV propagandist's son, is dodging the mobilization in Russia and is having sex parties in the UK?
Oh yeah, there was a publication about this. And his son was spotted in London, actually, where he attends gay clubs, and it's I think Solovyov was not insulted because he's attending like gay clubs, even though Solovyov like he's like the biggest homophobe in the world probably. The reason for that was because I think his son was kindly asked to leave the country because of the sanctions, and Solovyov basically lost his villa in Italy due to the sanctions. He was so much upset after that. I mean, he even made a video, and it's very famous, where he's like he's nearly crying. He's like, "What did I do? I did nothing wrong. Why did they do this to me?" And now his son cannot live in safety because he was asked to leave the country, and he has to go back to Russia. And again, in Russia, it's very dangerous to be gay. So he can either get drafted or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, they're reporting through Business Insider that he just recently had a meltdown on stream when asked anything about it. He hit back saying that his son, who had previously studied in London, was in Moscow He was living a difficult life of the average young man when it was left, not trying to dodge anything when all of this came about. So he's really offended at the fact that everyone is saying his son, not so much about all the other stuff, but that he's not supporting Russia. Like, and I can understand why from everything you've told us, that would be life-threatening in general, just to have that statement out there.
No, guys, you gotta understand that, like publicly calling out his son for being gay in Russia, it's like the most horrible insult you can imagine.
Yeah. Even more than saying he doesn't support Russia.
Yeah, it's like shame forever.
Oh.
Yeah, Solovyov can go and hang himself instantly.
Wow.
Because it's horrible. The worst thing you can imagine in your life. They have this doctrine against LGBT in Russia, and it's like they even made any sort of like speaking about it because they consider it a propaganda of homosexualism. They made it like completely illegal, and basically you can go to jail for even like talking openly about it. And on the streets, of course, you will get beaten instantly.
Well, that was the band Pussy Riot, which was I think that was the name, which was openly advocating for LGBTQ rights and was basically thrown in jail for even just talking about it. And it's it's absolutely it's no joke. And Putin himself seems to take that seriously. I'm always curious if he's advocating for those positions because it distracts the public, right? It gives them something to be outraged about, and you can do that, and they're not organizing towards rebellion, or if he really feels that way. I have no idea. I have no way of knowing.
I don't think so. I literally think that they decided to just copy paste Nazi Germany because it worked, and it worked because they're the same. So they don't even consider changing anything. They just copy paste everything, burning books, hunting gays, and things like that.
And it's worth noting too, for people who aren't necessarily students of history, that Russia was allied with Germany at the beginning of the war. They were big fans of Germany, and they were talking about how they were going to divvy up Poland. Russia ended up on the U.S. side, and so people sort of think, well, gee, wasn't it great that Russia was one of the good guys with the U.S.? Yeah, only after Hitler violated his peace agreement with Russia and then invaded Russia, which, by the way, Stalin was such a fan of Hitler, didn't believe that this was happening. So he called up Hitler and was just like, I hear you guys have crossed the border and attacked one of our bases. What's going on? He said, oh, well, it was a mistake. We'd given the orders to guy. I was, don't worry about it. We'll get it clear. This is literally what happened. And Stalin was like, okay, cool. And he refused to, for 2 weeks, talk to anybody or accept that this was a reality for 2 weeks. It took him 2 weeks to get out of the stupor that Hitler had betrayed him. Russia was a big fan of Nazi Germany for quite some time.
There's a bit more to this, because my previous commenter, he studied this topic, and he read a million books about the Second World War, and he came to a conclusion, and basically a lot of researchers came to a conclusion that actually Stalin was gonna attack first. He was targeting Sweden because he concentrated a lot of his troops in that direction. Basically, one offensive operation, one blitzkrieg towards Sweden, were known for producing metal. Then there was a bunch of troops that were directed at Romania. And the reason why Stalin's troops were so much defeated in the beginning of this war with Germany was because they were prepared for the offensive war. They made no positions, they made no fortifications, nothing like that. They literally brought a lot of folks, like Putin did in Belarus. he brought a lot of people there, and they were just like hanging out, waiting orders. And there was tremendous concentration of Soviet troops on the border the day the attack happened. And because they were not prepared, and also because their logistics sucked, they were running away so fast. Germans, they could not even, they were doing more kilometers per day than they expected because of that. In Zhytomyr, I believe, and Zhytomyr is basically like central Ukraine. In Zhytomyr, there is a memorial, and my father did a picture of that memorial dedicated to brave Soviet border guards that were defending Soviet Union back in that day when it happened, when they were invaded. And when my father saw that memorial, he made a picture of that, and he asked himself a question: what the heck do Soviet, like, what the heck did Soviet border guards do in freaking Zhytomyr? It's like, having memorial dedicated to heroic American New York border guards in Las Vegas. It's like, it's stupid.
In Vegas.
Yeah, but returning to topic, you gotta Google. It's very easy to find. You gotta Google mutual Russian and German parade in Poland. You will see everything.
Well, Russia was one of the original Axis powers, or they were supposed to be, and the Axis just basically moved on without them and attacked. And...
Yeah. So the reason why Hitler attacked, according to this theory, is because he had information that Soviet troops were preparing an offensive operation. That's why he decided to develop his blitzkrieg and capture as much territory as possible, and then negotiate. So it's like, okay, we will divide the front line somewhere, like in Ukraine. You will have like left bank of Ukraine, we will have right bank of Ukraine. And, his strategy was to shock Stalin, which he did, actually, because Stalin was unable to take any decision for like 3 days after this attack. But he was convinced by somebody that he should not have negotiations with Germans at all. Well, I know that through Bulgaria, I think they were kind of negotiating something, but not really. So that was the idea. Because, again, invading Soviet Union, that huge territory, having without having advantage in terms of tanks. They had like 10 times less tanks than the Soviet Union, having less airplanes, less people. It's crazy, but and basically it's exactly what Russia did in 1 year ago.
So yeah. Here, let me switch over quick. Jean-Marc Paganel threw $5 into the super chat hat. So thank you again, Jean-Marc there. Former general in charge of invasion fell out a window. Supposedly he was depressed. Yeah, that was the one fall that nobody jumped for, I'm sure. Come on. No way.
Yeah, a lot of people get sucked out into windows in Russia.
It seems to be a real bad occurrence. I think they should fix those windows, or the people standing behind them.
I think it's some kind of natural phenomenon in Russia. We still got to study it. But the most recent victim of a Russian window was Russian high-ranked officer, and she was responsible for all the funds flowing through her into the western Russian military district, and she knew too much because this specific district was responsible for it took active participation in the invasion, and Putin was highly dissatisfied with it, with the results, with everything, with like battle for Kiev and things like that. That's why she knew too much. That's the reason.
And the general in charge of his internal security committed suicide earlier, I think, or late last week as well. Just, you know, they came in, found him dead. Cause of death was ruled a suicide.
He became better.
Oh,
yeah. Suicide is something you can recover from. It just depends.
He became better. He's not good.
I'm delighted.
Oh man. Okay. So I got one more shout out here, and then I'm gonna turn it over to DKG, who's got one to throw in. So Boston Danny threw $10 into the super chat fund. Big shout out there, Boston Danny. Thank you very much. Do you guys see the recent video of the Ukrainian Rambo, in brackets Russian? Here, I'll toss it up again so you can see the text too. Who close combat trench warfare, blew up a BMP under fire, and improved a few orcs with his AK, all caught on a GoPro.
Yeah, it's a famous video actually, and you can find it like all over Ukrainian Telegram channels. That's a badass. And my reconnaissance company, my reconnaissance platoon, actually, in my brigade, took battle versus a company of Russian soldiers in Rubizhne, and they held defense and destroyed multiple Russian BTRs and BMPs, and it was a successful battle. So basically, they lost a couple of guys wounded. But everyone is alive, and they said that they eliminated like numerous Russian soldiers. Actually, interview with one of those recons can be found on Max's channel. It's there, and it's a famous interview. Actually, on our Facebook page, Facebook page of our brigade, it was blocked by multiple reports made by Russian trolls. Because you know,
funny that
it was hilarious. Yeah.
Let's turn over to DKG.
Damn it, I was in the middle of typing a message, you buggers. Hello, Starsky, my favourite sergeant, second only to Mark Sargent, the Flat Earther. A couple of things. Now, you were talking about museums earlier. Do you know what they call museums in Russia?
No.
Weapons caches.
Yes.
Now then, so there's a bit of a ramble towards before I get to the question. Now, recently in Russia, they've been closing down the borders, preventing young men to leave. They've been tightening those restrictions on travel. Everybody in the world told their sovereign citizens to leave Russia immediately. And I saw a interesting piece of documentary from the BBC about Serbia and how the Serbians are behind Russia because of the propaganda that's coming into the country. It's getting pretty terrible over there. They're all for the war, and they think Russia's great and just fantastic. And we have the speech from Putin coming up on the 21st, which is Tuesday, where it's a lot of opinions are pointing to the fact that he's going to go full mobilization. a real big push. Now, what's your thoughts about that?
They can absolutely do that because they have a lot of people. Generally, they have bigger population than Ukraine, of course, and yeah, of course, they can mobilize a lot of them, a lot of cannon fodder for this means grinder. But on the other hand, again, logistical problems in the first place, and also Ukraine has a slight advantage in artillery right now. In order to mobilize so many men, you have to spend time, you have to spend a lot of resources on equipping them, training them, feeding, and delivering to Ukraine. And again, currently what we see, they brought almost 100,000 men, and those were added to more than 300,000 men that are still there, concentrated in Donbass. And they don't have enough vehicles for them, because motorized unit, for example, it requires those infantrymen to be delivered somewhere, like using armored vehicles, using trucks and things like that. They have lack of vehicles at this point, and soon they will end up like Ukrainians buying cars, on a second-hand market, and bringing to the front line. Actually, they already do that, but the biggest difference is that Ukraine is supported by numerous countries, and volunteers from those countries bring numerous cars to Ukrainians. While I don't know about many countries that will support Russia in this regard. So you cannot just bring infantry to the front line. You have to give them vehicles. You have to give them the machines,
backup, support, everything, right?
Absolutely. And what we see now is that Russians started doing just that. In Vuhledar, for example, they can send a whole company into attack without any sort of tank support or BMP support, anything like that. And those are getting wiped out like every single day. We saw like yesterday they lost 1,010 men in a day. It's only because of that. So who has more artillery and, of course, more armored vehicles and tanks will, of course, win this war, because it's a war of machines one way or another. And Ukraine soon will have a lot of those. We're already receiving a lot of support from our Western allies. And Russian ability to use machines is getting smaller and smaller every day, luckily for us.
What about their manufacturing capability? I mean, during the Second World War, they practically had 5 tanks, but managed to get their manufacturing processes up to speed to crank out thousands of tanks for Second World War. What's their current state like? I mean, can they build anything?
Again, back then Russia was not isolated. Russia was supported again by allies. And they received a lot of, first of all, land lease. They received a lot of support and parts from allies, resources from allies, and things like that. Currently, Russia is isolated, and one of the biggest advantages brought by sanctions is that they cannot produce their weaponry in the amounts required to successfully accomplish their missions in Ukraine. For example, a couple of days ago in Kiev, we had an exhibition, and their Russian missile parts were shown, and those parts that were found in missiles fired early in this war were compared to the parts found in missiles that were shot down or intercepted, like recently. And first of all, they tried to improve their missiles because, for example, early missiles had like one camera installed in the guidance system. Recent missiles have like 3 or 4 cameras to improve their precision. But at the same time, they compared the parts, the circuits, and things like that. And it's obvious that what Russia is trying to produce has much lower quality than those parts that were produced earlier using like European parts. They don't have much opportunity to build as many of those cruise missiles as needed for them. So first of all, it's due to the sanctions. Second, it's because basically because they lost a lot of their cruise missiles by shooting at Ukrainian civilians.
Mhm.
It was so stupid. Oh my God! I mean, we are so lucky to fight these stupid assholes because
Mhm.
if they were smarter, we would.
Yeah, you'll be in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were shooting thousands. Yeah, they shot thousands of cruise missiles at second biggest country in Europe after France.
Mhm.
And what kind of result they have now? They almost depleted their missile storage, which is a strategic storage. They almost have nothing to use to deal with our military power in this regard. Our energy grid works. Here in Hostomel, we had no blackout for a week, maybe. Which is a surprise, but yeah, I like it this way.
Mhm.
And whole world can now see that they're freaking criminals. They're killing civilian people. They're shooting at infrastructure. They can now see the true Russian nature, this mystic Russian soul that is basically about like murder, and also. Something. Anyways, so that's the answer.
Mhm.
And they cannot produce more. They can produce something like 40 missiles a month, while they were shooting like hundreds missiles a month. So yeah, that's the situation.
Mm.
For example, yesterday we had a missile strike in Ukraine. They shot 4 missiles from Black Sea.
Mhm.
Or that's
4
just
missiles.
not what they were doing in the beginning. There was a couple
Right.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a bit.
Mm. That definitely paints the picture, wouldn't you say? Well, thank you, Starsky. Do you want another question, Dean? We will. If you're finished, DK, of course.
Oh yeah. No, please carry on. I was just sitting here quietly waiting for you to take over and
Oh, well, then.
storm in like a Russian Nazi.
Not like a Russian anything, thank you very much. But I do have one from just
You are a
Jessica
bear.
Barna. Well, I am a bear, but I'm the best kind of bear, the non-Russian version, please. Jessica Barlow has a question in regards to Ukrainian regimental patches. There was a question, I believe, last week also, and she'd like you to restate where they can possibly get them, or maybe suggest a command that they can be provided to show support. I think she's wondering on how to acquire them.
The easiest way is to literally find them on Wikipedia and order through your local, I don't know, service.
Right, so you can order them here.
Yeah, it will be the easiest way because unfortunately there is no agencies and like selling them.
No, but if you, I used to have a business doing this kind of stuff. And if in your local area you have any sort of business that does like trophies and shirts for sports teams and whatnot, they can make it for you on the spot, no problem. If it's a one-off, it's not going to be the cheapest thing in the world, but it's going to get done, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to be successful, wait a second, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Here we go.
Here, I'm gonna pin him just because the effect of him getting up and doing all this is good.
This
Put him
is
back on the
looking
screen
good.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
It would be funny if the camera span round and you saw him like in a Marriott hotel, 5-star hotel. He's like,
He's actually accepting his room service right now, right? Okay.
Yeah, Clarkson's film crew in the
No.
background from the Grand Tour and whatnot.
Oh,
You know,
gosh, jeez.
more champagne, Starsky. Oh, not yet. Stream not over.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would help
But,
with the
but,
toothache.
but if somebody doesn't bring me fresh slippers soon, I will kill. You know?
He's not a man I would want to
I'm
kiss.
back. I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
So if you want to be successful, sorry about that. If you want to be successful, you gotta order or sell or disseminate this patch. This is the
Oh.
patch of my brigade, and this is very cool because you see this Ukrainian trident, and you see this NATO star in it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a NATO star.
Mm.
This is actually one of the first patches that we had. So yeah, so you gotta do those.
You know what would be really cool if you took a picture of that and posted it on your Twitter, so we could just put it everywhere for them to call.
Yeah.
Just the patch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, that's possible.
I'll
I
do that
can
for
even
you.
provide you
Yeah.
with like a link to a huge resolution image.
Oh,
If
there
you
go.
send me that high resolution image, we can convert it over to an EPS document, and that's the kind of thing that these print people are going to really want, and so on. So yeah, send it over, and then I'll put in the Discord a file that I guarantee you could take to any print shop, and they'll just go, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do
That
that.
That would be cool if one of the fundraising organizations for the Ukraine benefits uses it to get more, since there's an interest in everyone buying it, use it to do a double,
Yeah.
Yeah. And what makes this patch special, first of all, is the first brigade in Ukraine that was created using NATO standards. It's the first brigade that took combat in Ukraine. It's the brigade that protected Hostomel. And same brigade that defended Rubizhne and Severodonetsk and Lysychansk for 4 months. Same brigade that took control over Liman. Same brigade that currently defends Bakhmut. So we're kind of legendary.
Christina S had a super chat that came through there. $20, big super chat. Thank you there, Christina S. Tomorrow on my B-Day. Well, happy birthday, Christina. I'm launching a fundraiser for a couple who fled Donetsk in 2014. Now they help in liberated areas. Starsky, can you please explain Day of the Heavenly 100 Heroes? Feel better with a big heart, belly rubs for fudge. I love it.
Yes, we have Heavenly 100, or also known as Celestial 100. During the Revolution of Dignity, we had self-defense groups operating in Maidan, and those were protecting protesters versus the police, versus snipers, versus thugs, basically, that were brought from Donbass and things like that. And they were operating in, we were calling them hundreds, because it's like a tribute to Ukrainian tradition, because Ukrainian Cossacks, those badass guys from medieval times, they were operating in hundreds. Basically, each company was called 100. And so we had those hundreds, those companies of those gentlemen protecting people in at Maidan during the revolution. And During the last days, it was 20th of February, 18th, 20th of February, 2014. Policemen and police snipers, there are rumors that actually Russian snipers were involved in that because Ukrainian snipers would not agree on that. They started shooting protesters. And the situation was like this. Our protesters, armed, basically defended only with like wooden shields, they started advancing towards police. Police snipers started shooting those people, but people, despite being killed, they actually rushed towards the police. And there are very famous or notorious videos from that day depicting police shooting AKs, shooting sniper rifles at protesters, basically unarmed protesters that only had like wooden shields that would not save from bullets, despite they were being killed, but they still managed to reach positions of police. Police retreated. And later that day, our dictator Yanukovych fled to Russia, of course, and took refuge in Russia. And he took like all the country's annual budget with him, just in case. People who died during this shootout, they were called Heavenly 100. And there are different people, men, women, a lot of them. And we consider them our heroes. Some policemen, by the way, who died that day because of those clashes, that there were like a couple of them. But they considered to be members of this Heavenly 100 as well, as far as I know. I lost 3 of my friends there. They are basically our heroes. We have streets named after Heavenly 100. As for the police, by the way, the internal troops, so-called, later, when Russia annexed Crimea that very year and then annexed Donbass, we formed the National Guard of Ukraine from both protesters and policemen. So at some point, Ukrainians realized that that bloodbath that they had was the result of basically Russia trying to, make us fight each other. That's why Ukrainian police and Ukrainian protesters united and formed the National Guard of Ukraine.
That's an unbelievably cool story, man. Wow. Starsky, there's been a little chatter in the back here. So the patch you showed there, your guys' patch, if we were to produce some patches and stickers and iron-ons and stuff for people and say take all the proceeds and donate it to you for the guys in said unit, that wouldn't be a problem, would it?
Absolutely, but I would prefer if you donated it to. I will give you the.
Well, it's your choice.
I will give you contact of the charity.
Okay.
So there's this charity group called Vatra. It's run by girls, and those are heroic girls because they bring like uniform and equipment and gear to Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines, and we asked them if they can make a separate account for our brigade, and they said yes. So basically, you can send everything to them, and that will be great.
Perfect. So what we're going to do is this week coming up, there's going to be some work done in the background, and there's going to be in a complete line of merchandise with that badge on it. And you'll be able to grab it up. Starsky will be giving the link out as well, and we'll be sharing it all over the place. Nick Suter over on In Time when they do the show will, and all proceeds will be going over to the most ultimate ladies, because wow, what a great idea that is, Starsky. But yeah, it's coming up, so you'll be able to get this in no time. We're gonna fill it. We're gonna fill the bill. We got it.
I can see a T-shirt with the patch on it, and it says, "I supported Operator Starsky, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt." Oh, and freedom freedom for Ukraine.
And freedom for Ukraine.
Yeah.
I would add something different. Like, I paid for a lousy T-shirt, but I got this kick-ass patch on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Or,
So
I paid for this lousy teacher and helped support freedom for Ukraine. There you go.
see, we'll have some variations. You know what? In the Shills Discord, we're gonna create a room after, and it'll be for suggestions. And then coming up, by the way, in just a couple hours here on the Shills, we've got a very important fundraiser we're going to be running again for one of the fellow babies, the family of the Shills, who's not one of the on mic personalities, but is very much part of the family and facing a dire situation of house ownership transfer and eviction notice is coming right away. There's themselves plus a more elderly family member being affected as well. We got a $3,000 goal to fix the situation. The first time we ran the fundraiser, we got it up to $1,700-ish or whatnot. So we should be able to wrap this up soon, but that's coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on the Shills. Let me just give you the link right now to make sure you know where to go, because we're going to be like playing some music and DJ night and having some fun. And it's just a total screw around hangout, trying to, make sure that we can save the situation for somebody, because you know what? That's what you do for family, man. That's what you do. You jump in and you fix it. And that's what we do too. So, that's coming up after. Hope y'all can join us, or as many as possible. It's a little later. I know for some people in Europe and stuff, that's going to be a bitch. But the links will be in the description and whatnot. So if you can't hang out, but you just want to pop in and maybe throw $5 into the hat, it'd be more than appreciated. We are close to wrap up, but David Worley has come in, and since Nick isn't here, I'm sure he's going to tell Claire off or something. I don't know.
Fuck you, DK. How are you,
Somebody was
Starsky?
getting it.
How's it going?
What did I do?
It's just tradition now. That's all.
It's just hello from where we're from.
Yeah, that damn Englishman is so rude.
I have got back quite late from the various shenanigans of the weekend, and I've completely missed everything on the show. Not that I listen anyway.
Yeah, well,
but,
it's my fuckery yesterday with the internet connection and everything, right? I screwed the whole thing up. Well, it wasn't me; it was my ISP.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shaw. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, great day.
Yeah, and guys, a small announcement for people who messaged me regarding those patches. I will send you those patches, I promised, but it will take some time. Because I'm completely busy these days with journalists and everybody, all the media in Ukraine, not only in Ukraine. They want to come to hostile because soon it will be like a year since the invasion, and sometimes I have like 5 interviews a day.
Yeah,
And my phone doesn't stop calling. So as soon as everything is solved, I will send you those patches.
yeah.
I received those messages on my email and stuff, so you will receive them.
Yeah. And we should also give a shout there, Starsky. If you're one of the other streaming channels or interview channels and whatnot, and in this little bit of time frame, Starsky isn't quite able to get a hold of you all the time. You got to understand. Oh my God, the man is swamped right now. And with the wisdom tooth and all, like, great timing, perfect.
Yeah,
He's only, he's
it
only
was something.
yeah, I mean, like, you are the public face of Ukraine for a lot of people, and it's crunch time right now to get the word out. And you're like, well, I'd like to be able to open my mouth, but I can't.
Yeah, it's true. And
horrible.
the funniest
Yeah.
thing is that in Ukraine, not a lot of people know about my channel, by the way.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I had a different channel in Ukrainian, been invited on a TV like a couple of times, but no, specifically they don't know about my English channel. Sometimes I receive messages on a Facebook like, "Are you alive?" Because I completely have no time to communicate with like internal public as much as I wanted.
Yeah. Like, there's probably people that you've known over time and whatnot, and you're just literally like, so like the demands on your time, I don't think the average person could understand, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why I'm very, very sorry about not answering your messages and stuff. I will get to them after a while, but I didn't open my Instagram for like a week already because I literally have no time for that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of time, I know time over your way, it's getting a little bit late, and we probably shouldn't keep you, beyond a certain sense of reason, because once again, dear God, you're a busy guy. So let's give a quick little wrap up moment to everybody. David Worley, who has had so much to say tonight on the show. How about yourself?
All good. Not to worry. The only thing I was really interested in is but the upcoming anniversary and what everyone's plans were in terms of what we've been talking about in the background about maybe getting some clips up from a year ago and maybe throwing out some of the same questions. Maybe there's not quite the same answers. Quite interesting to hear, what things were like a year ago and whether things have changed. So to our 500 plus viewers that are live, thank you for joining us. And yeah, I hope you can join us. Which specific day are we going next week, Dick?
Tomorrow, next week we'll be back to normal. It shouldn't be a repeated Saturday. Saturday. Yeah. It shouldn't be a repeated issue for me. That was just, I think what happened was they posted a bad update to my router and just borked it for the day. I'm not really sure yet, but it seems to be good again. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh,
well, hopefully we can join.
One sec. Big shout out to Gareth McKeel, who became a Shill member. Welcome to the family, Gareth. Thank you very much. Awesome stuff. Sorry, you can finish now.
No, I was just simply saying I hope everyone can join us next week for that anniversary. It's going to be quite possibly an emotional one, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to look back on and stuff, so absolutely it will be. Let's turn to DKG Custom, who caught more of the show. So, we're going into the amount of the show the person was on.
Well, I was here for a while, and I was talking, but nobody could hear me for some reason. But never mind. Yeah,
that was me actually. But yeah.
Anniversary. Anniversary seems to be like a really odd word to use for it, because anniversary sounds like something you should celebrate. But
it's usually used with happy connotations. Exactly.
Yeah. You kind of like slip your tongue and go, well, how are you going to celebrate the anniversary? Oh, hang on a minute. No, you don't really want to be doing that. No. But yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. But we all see you all next week. You might not see me because of the odd timings and stuff like that, but we'll see. And well, thanks very much for having me anyway. And look forward to seeing those patches and the t-shirts and whatever you're going to produce. Looking forward to that. And well, it's funny because I've got a old Band of Brothers patch somewhere kicking around. Just send that to Starsky, stick that on his jacket.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so take care, everybody. We'll see you all on next Saturday. Bye for now. Kiss me good night, Sergeant Major.
And we'll check in with Claire S. Bear next.
Again, great conversation. I'm glad Nick joined us also. Starsky, I hope that you heal up on the week. I know it must be really difficult for you to talk and even to be here with your mouth bothering you the way it is. You're quite the trooper. I would never, this is a man you don't want to piss off. He's got fortitude like I don't know what. Like, just stay on his good side. I'm glad we're all friends. I'm glad we're friends. I would not want to mess with you.
We're all going to line up and kiss your face better, Starsky. Don't worry.
I wouldn't even, unfortunately, I wouldn't even kiss him right now and cause him that kind of pain. I'd try to be considerate.
DK, you wouldn't give us a chance. Seriously.
Truly.
Struggling.
Could be all over him. We couldn't get near him, could we, Dave?
I'll be sucking his other teeth out for him.
Yeah, Bear don't got a chance, I know. But anyway, I hope you feel better. I do. And thank you for answering the questions in such great detail, too, because we really ran the gamut today all over.
Oh, yeah.
And
very much, very much. Before we let Starsky give the last word and take us out, I'm actually going to let a friendly face say it from me to Pootler directly.
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar. Failure is your destiny. You disrespect yourself and your nation. You are made of stupid.
And we'll give it to Starsky for the last word of the evening here, fellow babies.
It hurts like hell every time I smile, and you do that on purpose because the skin from my cheek was used to stitch my tooth. Like, yeah, it aches like, oh my god. But anyways, I would like to send a lot of hugs and love from Hostomel to y'all, because you are fantastic and awesome, and I would like to say thank you for supporting Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini!
Slava Ukraini, fellow babies. Now, the credits run for about like a minute, so we can do credits to say thank you to everybody who super chat and member and whatnot and blah, blah. But as the credits fade out, I'm going to play that song that was sent over by Martin Lefebvre there. So hang on to your asses, fellow babies. We're not done with you yet, but we are out of here. Slava Ukraini.
It's over. Go home.
Your intellect is as weak as your
we
dollar.
Worley, leave me
did a
hold
great
the
job.
damn
Your
bag and then
destiny.
shove me
You
in it.
disrespect
We all did a
yourself
great job
and
covering
your
for your
nation.
show, David.
You
That's
are
right,
made
Steve.
of stupid.
Are we still showing on the first screen?
Yeah, hold on. Here we go. I'm playing this song now. But yeah, everybody wants to go and do their thing. Why is it so damn loud in my ears? I have to turn this shit down. It's the song dude wanted to play,
You're
I
hot.
played it right at the end, so if I have to mute it because of copyright, it's no big deal.
Right. This person got hot mic.
Kind of the thing that Starsky would like too, but I knew it was getting late for him, right? I didn't want him to, feel like he had to,